and you start to think you're the shit when you're not. No one is. And I love how I'm not special. I love that. I'm just like everyone else. I'm a neutral being here and now. I'm not even a human being. It's just a concept at the end of the day. You are so insignificant. And listen, like you are. Like you're insignificant. You don't mean anything, but you mean everything at the same time too. Crazy. It's this paradox that we live in because if you're in that becoming domain and you're just like, I'm the fucking man, I'm gonna rip this fucking weight, this shit's going down. You get the chalk, you smack your hands, and you're like, I'm fucking ready. Pop smoke in your ear. Oh, this is it. And then you fucking, like, you know what I mean? Like, dude, I mean, I'm getting hyped up even saying it. But it's also balancing that with the being domain to recognize that, yes, since I am worthless, since I am so insignificant, I have no value over my life, but the value is generated from me that you can create the reality that you want. And so if you're placed into a group that is the advanced level class, develop that mindset, develop that kind of environment because it's only going to help you become further, but don't generalize that over everyone.
So we were working like fucking 10-hour days, 12-hour days, and I was thinking about it as I'm like listening to Alex Hormozi, and you know, the more I think, okay, so like Alex Hormozi lays it out like this. I'm just let you figure this out. Nice. You tried like 8 times, and then you're like, yep.
Whatever.
So Alex Hormozi talks about it. He's like the 3 things that the most successful. Oh God, I can't. Fuck, I know who's in here.
Yeah, I was literally just thinking about that. I was like, I put my mouth like I was touching it.
Yeah.
See, I have AIDS.
So the way Alex Hormozi, I'm good. Okay. The way Alex Hormozi lines it up, he's like, Scooter. The way Alex Hormozi talks about it. Oh, God damn it. The way Alex. Somebody's gonna die. No, like, whatever. Anyways, Alex Hormozi talks about it. The 3 things that you need. Fuck you. we were there, and you just willingly chose to fuck it up.
I didn't want to do that face.
Alex Hormozi talks about it, and he says the research shows that the top 3 traits of successful people are that they have impulse control, that they have a crippling insecurity about who they are, and they have a superiority complex. And you know, with those 3 things, I was thinking about it when I was working in South Carolina, and I was like, dude, this is so us. Because like I'm thinking about it, and I'm there, I'm like, damn, like I'm looking at the edits that everybody else is doing, and my ego gets in the way, and it says, dude, you know, but it's true. I can do a way better job than what these people are putting out, like superiority complex. Secondly, I have crippling insecurity. I'm sitting there, I'm like, dude, I could be doing more. Like, this isn't good. The edit I made isn't good enough. Like, this is never good enough. And then the third aspect was, what was the third aspect?
Superiority complex?
No, superiority complex, crippling insecurity, impulse control, right? And the guys went out, you know, they were going out doing stuff on the team, and you know, they were partying on the last night and stuff. And I didn't do any of that. Yeah. Because I was sitting there editing, and I was like, damn, like, you know, not to blow smoke on my ass, but you know, most people wouldn't have the impulse control to stay at the hotel and just edit for fucking 7 hours after you'd already spent 8 hours on the bus traveling,
grinding that weekend, dude.
and editing, and you know, sitting there getting cooked by the sun. Like I'm exhausted. I'm like,
it's the last thing you want to do.
Right. It was literally the last thing I wanted to do was do more work. On top of then, after I'm done with all that, do my own content. I'm like, fuck me, you know. And I'm thinking about it, and I'm like, dude, like this, like these kinds of things are like the things that like help me get over that, you know. It's the saying of
shows you
right, but it's like outworking your self-doubt because we're starting a business, and the odds of you building a successful business are pretty much goddamn 0. Yeah. And so since the statistics are completely stacked against you, the only way to get past that, because if you're starting a business and you feel self-doubt, you should feel self-doubt.
Absolutely.
99% of businesses fail, and they fail quick, and they fail hard, and they crumble to the ground. You should feel like all this self-doubt because you haven't proven anything yet in the marketplace. And so in our position, we have all this self-doubt, like, is it going to work out? Can we do it? Can we make it? And rightfully so, because we haven't done anything yet. But how do you get past that? The answer is you outwork that self-doubt. You put in those 12-hour days. It sounds so corny and cliche, but It's different when each second is passing by during those 12-hour workdays. And I'm thinking about it. I'm like, you and I are doing that. Like, we're actually doing that. Yeah. And this is why I know for sure that no matter what happens, whether it's monetarily or just impact on the world, like, we're going to get there.
Yeah, I know it. Yeah.
Like, it's certain. But it's because we're outworking the self-doubt. It's these two things right here. Like, it has nothing to do with with our mentality, although it does.
Yeah.
But it has everything to do with what we're doing with our two hands.
Action.
And like, that's the thing that I'm sitting there because, there's sometimes where, if with anything, in this case, with our business, it fluctuates. There's sometimes where I'm super confident. I'm like, we're going to make it. And there's sometimes where I'm like, we're not doing anything. Like, this sucks. We suck.
Yeah.
And it just fluctuates. I'm like, it goes, you go through the ebbs and the flows. And I'm sitting there. And then on days where we do those 12-hour work days,
we're the man.
I'm like, it reminds you.
Yeah, 100%.
As a side effect, you feel motivated.
Yeah.
But it reminds you that, oh no, like, we're doing it.
Yeah.
We're doing it. So.
Yeah, and dude, like, honestly, like, you literally took our CJ Media page to a whole nother level. Like, with you just literally performing beyond way more than what was expected of you in South Carolina.
You would have done the same thing, though. You would have done the same thing.
I know. But I think for you specifically, especially in your spot, I mean, like, I've been in videography for a couple of years at this point, you know what I mean? And like, I haven't, really advanced my skills until, January and, early December, and really understand like what it takes to make it into like, the professional market. And I still don't know what it's, still takes. And I think we have the skills there. I think we have the right products, and overall, like, I think it's all there. It's just a matter of, like we talked about this before, like marketing, attracting those people and positioning ourselves the right way. But yeah, man, like, I think, like you said, it's that kind of doubt, like having those kind of ideas in your head are constantly going to be there.
Yeah.
They're always going to be, that voice in your head is always going to kind of, I guess you could say, remind you of the reality that you want, right? But the reality that you may never get, right? And it's because it's not a reality, because you have to, in essence, develop certain habits and behaviors to get to that point. Right. You're, at least in my mind, like, there's a big dissonance there. And since, not necessarily dissonance, I don't think is the right word, but I think they're not aligning. Right?
I get what you mean.
And I think when you start, especially with what you said, right? If you, I think you touched on this with the Mario episode, and it made a lot of sense too, because I think the reason why we know we're going to be so successful and we know this is going to work out. Like, I know this is going to work out. Like, no doubt about it. Do I have that doubt? Absolutely, right? But it's because we have certain values, certain beliefs, certain habits and behaviors that will, no matter what, keep us consistent and always keep us working towards that end.
100%.
And I think just knowing that gives me such a internal sense of confidence and an internal sense of certainty about where we're going. And I can't express it enough how grateful I am to meet you, and how grateful I am to be in the spot that I am. Like, so many external factors had to fall into alignment for us to even be sitting in these chairs right now.
We're very lucky.
I can't express it enough. And I just know this is going to work out, and I know we're going to make such a big impact. 100%. And I think literally the only thing stopping us is us.
Right. I mean, the thing that I think about all the time is like, ego aside, if you want what the 1% of people have, success, money, fame, or the spiritual aspect of fulfillment, happiness, rich relationships, if you want what the 1% has, you got to do the things that the 1% does. Yeah. It starts with these two hands. Yeah. It's not what you think. You can't look in the mirror and say affirmations and get yourself to the 1%.
Yeah.
It's with these two things right here. And if you do the necessary things and you build the necessary habits, you'll get there. But the reason why the 1% is only the 1%, and it will never be the 99% of people that are happy, fulfilled, successful, famous, and have a lot of money or whatever, is because they do the things that they need to do. It's not a mental shift. It's a physical shift. It's an action shift. It's a habits shift. If you want the things that these 1% of people have, you have to live the life that they live. But nobody's willing to make that trade because it's hard. It requires discipline. And that's what separates everybody.
Yeah.
And so you think that, like, it's so easy to sit there and think that, okay, well, if I just did this and this and this, then I would get to my goals. It's hard to do those things because you sit there and you it's almost like, I've been thinking about it a lot. It's like you sit from a perspective of you haven't done anything, but it's really easy to fantasize. And so when you're in that perspective, it takes 2 seconds to think, all I have to do is work out every day and I'll have that body. And so it's super easy to think that until you get to the gym. It's super easy to think that until the alarm goes off at 6 a.m. and that's the only time you have to go to the gym. Like it's super cute to feel that way, feel motivated, inspired in that moment, but it's just one moment. It's not every day, 365 for years on end. That's what it takes. But people don't understand that the consistent beating down of every morning you're waking up and you don't want to put your shoes on and hit the gym because you had a late night and you were working and you got to do it all over again. Every day. The everydayness is what's hard. And it's really hard. And that's what separates the 1% from the 99%. And that's what I'm getting at. It's like, dude, people sit here all the time. They're like, we haven't proven anything yet. How can you say that for a fact you're going to be successful? And you kind of sit there and you're like, just watch. That's it. Watch. Wait. I'm patient. You're patient. Give it a couple years. Dude, give it 6 months. Like, you know why you laugh? Because you know it's true. Because you know it's true. But why do you know it's true? It all starts back in the beginning. You're outworking that self-doubt. Yeah. I'm with a person that's outworking his self-doubt. You're with a person that's outworking his self-doubt. It's unstoppable. You and I have no idea how we're going to become successful. The CJ Media business, we have no idea if this is exactly what it's going to look like. It's probably not what the final product of the business is going to look like. But what we do know for sure is that we're not going to stop. That's it. We don't care what it turns into. We care that we're fulfilled in the process and that we don't stop. And those are the two certainties that we have. Because those are the things that we can't control. We have no idea how things are going to work out, what it's going to turn into, what it might transform into. We have no idea. But that doesn't even matter. That's what gives us the uncertainty. So it gives it that little feeling of like, fuck, how is this all going to work out? But the complete certainty comes from the fact that we know that no matter what happens, unless we get killed, we're not going to stop. And that's what separates the 1% from the 99.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's... I have to put this note in there. Like, I think a lot of people can interpret like the 1% as like that kind of concrete one-way path. And I think, because I totally get where you're coming from, and I completely agree with you too. But I think anybody can do it. Like, anybody can. And I think, and Alex Hormozi talks about this a lot, and he says, to be better than your competition, you just have to be a little bit consistent, right? He's like, I think he was in the online lecture you sent me, right? And he was just saying, he's like, listen, there's people in this room that are cheating, getting away with half-assing things, and probably don't give a fuck about this class, right? And so if you just put in a little bit of effort, a little bit of consistency, and a little bit of care, right? Then you are going to be separated from the rest of the class, right? And he's like, it's the same way in business, because most people already have, I guess you could say, rather crappy habits, you know? And on that basis, if you can develop the regular self-discipline and the regular kind of consistency on a regular basis through, and this is kind of what I wanted to touch on as well too, through other areas of your life, by, from your sleeping to your nutrition, to your exercise, to really just any kind of endeavor you're going into, that more often than not will translate to you being successful in whatever pursuit you're doing. And, I have a friend who said this one time, shout out Kay, and it's like, it stuck with me before. And I was just talking to her, and she said, like, no matter what job she's in, she just knows she's going to be successful, right? And I thought about that, and I was like, damn, bro, like that is so true. And I resonate with that a lot too, right? Like, 'cause I could be thrown into like a mechanic shop, for instance. Listen, I am awful with cars, okay? I am dog shit with cars. I don't know shit about it, right? But I know, based on my experience in school, based on my own personal livelihood, that if I was thrown into, a mechanic shop, no matter how uncomfortable, no matter how bad I am at first, give me 6 months. Give me a year. I bet I'll be one of the best mechanics in that shop, right? Maybe I won't be, but like, I know I'll be actively pursuing it. And this is the same thing with school. I would be put into classes that, and I think it was Jordan Peterson was talking about this before, and he was talking about his interests and how you will do things, for instance, say in a classroom, right? And if you're learning about a subject that you're not really interested in, you're most likely not going to be too passionate about it or really necessarily want to dive in, think about you in accounting, right? And all all these different types of things, right? But that doesn't matter, right? To you. That doesn't matter because if you have to do it, if you have to go to class, and right, you're doing that, it's a different story, right? Or if you have to do this project in video editing, or if you have to go through a certain job to get to an endpoint that you want to get to, that doesn't matter because you have to do it, right? And so based on your own personal habits, your own personal behaviors, you will really, and you know internally that you'll succeed. And that's just who you are. That's based on the habits that you have developed. And that's just why I developed such a strong sense of security, right? And so like when I got like this new job, for instance, like it was a big adjustment, right? But I knew I'd be good. Like it doesn't feel like anything has really changed, right? Even though from the outside looking in, it definitely has. Right. And that's why I think like, based on my supervisor's feedback just from yesterday, he's like, Cal, you did a great job this semester. Right. And there wasn't a lot of times when he was checking in on me, you know what I mean? And that's not to say I can't improve. That's not to say I was perfect by any means, but I know I've developed a skill set and vice versa with you and other people around me in our close circle that I know whether it be freaking Joe, whether it be Delia, whether it be Kay, whether it be you, whether it be, really anybody, I know no matter what job they go into or pursuit they go into or passion, I know they're going to be successful because of the habits, the values, and the overall way of life and their mindset towards life. And so kind of drawing this all back in, like you said before, we're outworking our self-doubt constantly, right? And we're constantly trying to move towards a reality that we believe is more preferable. And I think without a doubt, without a doubt, we will outwork that self-doubt, and that kind of pursuit will just continue. And I know we'll be successful, and I'm really looking forward to what's to come, man.
It's insane. Yeah, I mean, it's crazy.
Yeah, dude.
It's great. But the thing you started off with, if you want to separate yourself from the masses, you don't want to live the life of the 99%. You just got to be a little bit better. Just a little bit better. Like the second, bro, it's crazy how lit up I get when I see somebody that's consistent with anything.
Yeah.
Somebody that says, oh yeah, no, I've been going to the gym for a couple years. Like immediately I'm like, oh shit. When that time horizon changes, you know they're about it. You know they're different. You know that they're separated from the rest. But why? Your two hands. What you do on an everyday basis. If you have the consistency and the discipline to do something every day, you're off to the fucking races. You can actually do anything. Like if you have that consistency and you're miserable, it's an easy fix. Easy fix. Because you have the discipline to learn, to get better, to make the necessary changes. The hardest part about changing anything is the fact that most people aren't consistent. That's the hardest part of changing. It's the fact that people aren't willing to put in the work to change. If a client comes to me and their life is in shambles and I immediately tell them, hey, you got to start making your bed every day. And then after that, we'll start going to the gym every day. And then after that, we'll build on those habits.
No, take those pills.
Right. Yeah, perfect. Sorry, I just spit everywhere.
Spit right here.
Thanks. No, but if somebody comes to me and they say, I'm miserable, I want my life to get... Fuck.
Okay.
If somebody comes to me and they're miserable... If somebody comes to me and they're miserable and they want to get their life together, and the first habit I tell them to start building is to make their bed, and then eventually we'll get to the point where they're going to the gym and just building on those habits. If they can't even start making their bed every day, I know that nothing's ever going to change for them mentally.
Yeah.
Because it's not a mental shift. It's a physical shift. It's a habit shift.
Yeah.
And if you can't have the discipline and just start making your bed every day, you're not going to have the discipline that you can build on to get your life in order, to get your mind in order, to get out of this spot where things are shitty. And until you get to the point where you can at least make your bed every day, there's nothing me or Tony Robbins or any of these famous guys that know how to influence people like mad can say to help you get better. Doesn't matter how influential or smart they are. They can't help you because if you won't help you, nobody can help you.
So does it starts physical, then it becomes mental? Because I'm just thinking about it from doesn't there have to be some kind of you have to make the choice, right? Mm-hmm. If I wake up every morning, right, and I feel my normal habit is to always leave my bed unmade, right? Mm. And you know, when you have that kind of urge, that sense of motivation, whether it be at 11 o'clock at night, or that kind of idea like, oh, maybe I should make my bed, right? And then you're on the fence and you're trying to decide whether you're going to do it or not. And that's the moment where you possibly ignite that flame that will become a new habit. So I think it's more of a choice thing that leads to action. Because to me, it doesn't make sense that it just goes from physical to mental. I totally get what you're saying.
Yeah.
I think it's a choice, and then you have to follow through with that with action.
Right. But what makes somebody willing to make that choice?
It definitely, the external environment can definitely play a role in that.
Right.
But sorry, can you repeat the question one more time?
What makes somebody willing to make that choice? Because like the thing that I think about immediately is like, you know, if somebody, you know, because you can keep asking the question, well, how does that happen? Well, how does that happen? Because if you have the discipline to make your bed, how do you have the power to make the choice to make your bed? Because it's definitely easier to just sit there and not make your bed. So what?
You have the ability to do it.
Right. But what gives you that ability?
I mean, like just your biology.
I get right. So
yeah, it is. It does start with physical.
Eventually, it's almost sort of.
Yeah.
Eventually, it just gets down to the point of like
it's a necessary presumption for you to have in order to perform that.
Right, but you keep asking why or how. The answer is either going to be it's something that you of a belief, God, the universe, genetics, DNA, something that you can no longer further explain.
Okay.
Because when I look at you and I look at somebody else that, you know, can't maintain any sort of discipline of going to the gym, building a business, any habit or whatever, what's the difference? Well, you keep asking why? Because the immediate answer, the easy answer is to say, okay, Cal goes to the gym every day because he has the discipline to do that. And the reason he has the discipline to go to the gym every day is because he started with smaller habits. Okay, you keep going though. Why? How? How did that just happen? What do you mean? He had the discipline to start smaller habits. How did he start the smaller habits? You just keep asking how. Big bang. That's it. You go down to the God, some sort of complex where it stops. But it's a complex. It's not a secure, strong answer. Because a secure, strong answer from making your bed to being able to go to the gym every day, because discipline is a muscle. So you have the strength to make your bed every day. It gets easier and easier and easier. Similar to you can bench 225 for 1 rep, and you keep doing it. Now you can do it for 5. Now you can do it for 10, and now you're putting 300 pounds on the bar. Makes sense. Logically, that makes sense. But how did you get to the point where you had the discipline to go to the gym? Like these questions, they all come back to the same spot of, you know, in my eyes, God, in your eyes, the universe, in somebody else's eyes, whatever, right? And so it's hard to for me, it's like, it's really hard to, you know, for me, this is where empathy comes from. Because when I look at somebody who's homeless on the street, it's easy to immediately assume that, well, you know, if they did X, Y, and Z, they could get a job. And they probably could if they did X, Y, and Z. But why don't they have the power to do X, Y, and Z when you do? You keep asking why, you get to a complex. And so to me, this is the question.
Where you ended up, kind of.
Right. I don't know. What do you think? It's super hard to even think about. And I know it's definitely hard to respond to, but
I think that's just so important too. Like just to keep in mind, like especially when you're judging other people, because so many times it's so easy to be like, yeah, especially when you're in an egoic state of mind, like, yeah, I'm the shit. Like, yeah, I'm really strong. Like this guy's not. Like, okay, dude, like, want to know why you're really strong? Yeah. Because of genetics. You know what I mean? And it's like, so many people, I think Greg Doucette made a video on this, and I think it was YouTuber Justin Lee made a YouTube short about, he's like, if you've been in the gym for about 5 years and you've consistently put in the work and you have average genetics, you should be able to bench press 315. And so Greg Doucette pulls up the statistics and he's like, well, actually, most people won't even bench 225. You know what I mean? And he's like, if you're benching 315, and you're X amount of weight, you know, like body weight wise, you have elite genetics.
Yeah, I was gonna say like 315.
And like, it's like that, even for myself, you know, like I feel like especially with, thank you, Michael Saturday, has definitely helped me become a lot stronger, right? And I think it's really interesting. I don't know if I was thinking about this today. Yeah, I was thinking about this before, and it's just really interesting because I think sometimes people can get carried away with the natural abilities that they have, right? And then they'll hold those over other people, right? So for instance, like if I'm really good at math, or if I'm really strong, or if I'm good at a particular sport, or if you're in first grade and you're really good at reading, right? And you're in the elite level reading group, right? And then, which I wasn't. But like people will take that and just be like, they'll take that natural ability and then they'll believe that they're superior, right? And so maybe within that specific area they are, but they're more generally speaking, they'll be like, yeah, I'm the shit, right? And I think they'll make the generalization that sometimes that anybody can get to the spot that they're at, right? And so, and they won't take into account their quote unquote luck. Right. They won't take into account how the factors that got them to that point. So as much as I'd like to say it, I won't ever be as strong as Larry Wheels, or I won't nearly be as good as a soccer player or basketball player, as professionals, right? There's a difference there. And I think, bringing it back to what we were saying, right, especially with like the homeless example, right, it's really important to keep in mind that not everybody's going to be able to get to the spot that you're in, right? And when I say that, it's not to say that they can't develop the habits, they can't develop the behaviors, right? There's certain things outside of your control, right, that dictate your ability, I shouldn't say ability, ability to change positions and your current position that you're in, right? And it's really important to keep in mind because, like you said, there's so many things outside of our control that, like for instance, our conditioning, for instance, like our current environment that we're operating in. But I think what's important to keep in mind is even if you don't necessarily take that generalization, you recognize, let's just say you're a person that is in a lower tier of that kind of specific area, you can progress, right? It may not be to that top pinnacle that everybody else is at. You may not be benching 315. And Greg Doucette makes a great point about this. He's just like, compare yourself to yourself.
That's it.
Whether it be moving from 45 pounds, just the bar, to 65 pounds, then 65 pounds to 100, and then 100 to 135. You know what I mean? Like, it's just so easy, especially nowadays with social media, to just believe in this one kind of concrete path, right, that you think is amazing. But it's important to draw it back to your own standards, your own goals, and what's realistic and practical for you. And it's not to say you won't get to that point, but just keep in mind that that may not be possible, but you can still make great progress, and that is great progress for you, even though according to the industry or kind of area that you're operating in, that may not be deemed as great. Or, you know what I mean? It's just balancing both those aspects.
Like the thing I immediately think about is what, the way things worked at my elementary school. Because when I was younger, what they would do is they grouped us into 3 groups because there was 3 teachers for each grade, and they split us up into thirds. And so what we would have is our homeroom classroom, and then when we would study specific things like math, or there was math and reading and writing, I think those are the 3 things that we were doing, we would split up into our groups. And so one teacher would take the top third percentile, the other teacher would take the middle third, and the other teacher would take the bottom third. And it logically makes sense because people are learning at different paces. You can't take everyone and just mix them up randomly because some kids are going to learn at a faster rate, and it's just going to kill their vibe because they're going to be in a classroom that's going too slow or too fast. And so immediately what I thought about was when I was in high school, as I looked at the same kids that I had went to, because I was blessed enough to be in the top third percentile. And so whenever I had class, I was always with the really, really smart kids that were way smarter than me. I was always with kids that were doing things faster than me, always reading faster than me, always doing math faster than me. And naturally, it brought me up to speed. But anytime I would come back to recess, anytime I would come back to homeroom, I would come back to the other kids, the kids that weren't learning as fast as I was, even in reality where their IQ might have been better than mine. But what had happened was, and like as I was saying, when I was in high school, I look back, and the same kids that were in that class were way more disciplined than the kids that were not. And it might be because of biology, and it definitely has something to do with it.
Sure.
But how much of it has something to do with the fact that those kids were reaffirmed that they're the smart kids? How much of it had to do with the fact that these kids and you get placed in an external environment just by happenstance sometimes that places you in a position where you think,
your mindset,
I'm the smarter kid. I'm the better kid. I know more. I learn faster. And vice versa. You're the kid in the lower class. You're in class with kids that have, disabilities and kids that have special needs, but you don't feel that way. But this is your identity, I guess, because the teachers put you in this classroom. So now you come back for recess and you're looking at, kids like me. You're like, damn, I didn't think I was dumber than Jay, but I guess I am because he's in the smart class with fucking Anthony Maluzzo. Shout out to Anthony Maluzzo. You're a fucking genius. Anthony. But like, I'm sitting there and I'm like, what am I, like, you know, is this really me? And after enough repetitions, you don't even ask the question. You just go to math class and you don't even realize it. That's in your paradigm. And so when I go out into the real world, or I go onto the soccer field, or I go out into the wrestling mat, or I go onto any of these things, and my identity is I'm the fucking man. I can do it. How powerful is that? How powerful is that? It doesn't matter. Like, imagine I go to one school, this kid goes to another school, and I get put into the advanced classes by accident. He gets put into the lower classes by accident. And we go out to the wrestling mat 5 years later, 10 years later. Who's going to win that match if we're both dead even? It's going to be me every day of the week because my belief is I can do it because I've always been that way. But that belief comes from Mr. Boothroyd putting me in the top, 33%. And that all came from what? It could have been happenstance. It could have been by accident. It might have had some slight thing to do with biology. But the fact of the matter is when you put yourself in an environment where your identity is reinforced that I'm the shit or I'm not the shit, it's gonna be manifested in every single facet of your life. Always. To me, this is just one example.
Oh yeah, it makes so much sense though.
But it's like, I remember thinking about, it's crazy because as you were talking, I was thinking about, I was like, one day I was literally sitting there in class and I was looking around at a couple of my friends and I was like, damn, like, as I got older, I realized who was smart, who was just hardworking and wasn't really that smart, and who was dumb, but for some reason got put into the 33%. If you took an IQ test or looked at the SAT scores, it probably would vary greatly. But these kids that luckily got into the top 33% class somehow are getting better grades than the kids that were in the lower 33% class, even when they were equally as smart or opposite. And to me, you really got to take a look at what's reinforcing your identity. Is it assisting you or is it not? Like Alex is a perfect example. People have always told Alex, like what's something people have always told Alex? Because we've had this conversation a million times because he was so susceptible to it. Where anytime somebody would say like, you're stupid, you just can't figure it out, he would get to the point where he would just be like, Mom, can you just do this? Mom, can you just do this? But it's an identity thing. His identity was, because of no fault of his own, everyone tells him, you're stupid, you can't stay focused, you're annoying, or whatever. And so his immediate reaction was conditioned to be, I'm stupid, I'm annoying, I can't figure this out, somebody else do it for me. And it all started with his identity, and it weakened him over time. But this happens to everybody. And so my point is like, if you're put in a position where your identity is being reinforced positively or negatively, you got to be conscious of that. You have to be super conscious of that. Because if you're put in the advanced class, it doesn't mean that you're advanced. And if you're put in the stupid class, it doesn't mean that you're stupid. It doesn't. But if you allow that to become your identity because of what somebody else said that, this is you, this is where you belong, your group with these people, your group with these people, then it's going to fuck everything up or make and break everything else for you. So you really have to be conscious of that. Yeah. There was actually a study that they did with school kids, and did they do it on the teachers? They did it on the teachers. They told teachers going in, I'm going to just generalize, but they told teachers going into the school year which students were the advanced students and which students were the poor students and which students were just kind of the average students. And they completely made it up. But somehow at the end of the year, the kids that were the advanced students that they labeled as the advanced students, when really it was just a random sample, got better grades. And they also, the thing that they noticed the most, the teachers helped them the most. They went above and beyond to help these advanced students. Why? Because the teacher's idea of who the student's identity was got blocked into the area of they can do it. But imagine if you did that to yourself. Imagine if you put yourself in the advanced category, whether you think you should or shouldn't be. Imagine if you just started acting that way. How would life change around you? If you went around believing that you could fucking do it, believing that it doesn't matter what everybody else says about you, that if you change your identity of yourself, that other people will assist you in that process to become successful in any endeavor, how things would change for you. I got blessed. I got super blessed. Whether it's I'm above average IQ, and so I got put in the top 33%, and that became a self-fulfilling identity of I'm confident in all these facets of life or whatever else it may be. But you can do it for yourself, and you really can. But the starting point is becoming conscious of these boxes of identities that we put ourselves in or allow others to put us in. And until you're conscious, you're always going to stay in those boxes.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. The thing that I'm like, that I find really interesting, and it's because, I just keep thinking about the powerlifting example, right? Because, like, for me, right, like, I find, like, my confidence is dictated a lot by what happens under the bar, right? And, or over the bar, for doing sumo. And because there's this gap between what I feel and relate that I can do versus what I can actually do. And I mean, like, for instance, like, I've told a couple people about this, like, that, like, this past week has been my worst week of powerlifting ever. Like, I was supposed to hit my top set cluster, and I failed. It was like a 2 reps, right? Like I told you, and then just rest, 2 reps again. It was, top set, 395. Couldn't even do my first rep, right? And then a couple days go by. I do my top set of deads, and I got the first cluster, and then I failed the second one, and I couldn't even do any of the back off sets, right? And so I was talking to my coach, and he was like, dude, you're completely fine. I know you're going to be okay. You're just fatigued. And because he has that understanding of where I actually am and what I can actually do, right? But I don't feel I can do that. Like, I don't feel I can hit the numbers that he says I'm going to hit, right? Like, I feel I can hit those same numbers that I hit my past powerlifting meet, but when it comes time to go beyond what I believe or what I know I can hit, that's when I feel kind of shaky. And my confidence under the bar right now has dropped dramatically, right? And so it's not necessarily like, oh, I can't even fucking do shit, but like, I am way more confident in my bench than I am my deadlift and my squat, right? Just because of the experience that I had. And so the external results that I'm having are dictating my confidence. But I also think too, like you were pointing on, if you're placed into an environment where, for instance, you're the elite group or you're the advanced group, right? And you know the saying, if you're hanging around a bunch of sharpened pencils, like, you're going to get sharpened too. You know what I mean? And so, and then in addition to that, right, like, if you're seen that way, other people around you will kind of reinforce that identity, right? And so, like, that identity is critical. It really is, because like, the power of belief when it comes to, like, you can literally trap yourself into not getting a lift that your body actually can do, right? It's just the mindset that you develop going into that lift kind of leads you to have certain actions, like, you're almost, like, you're it's like a something self-fulfilling prophecy, right? And so you self-prophesy. Whatever. You have, like, that belief, right, that you're going to fail this lift ends up becoming true. Right. And so ends up becoming true. And I think just so many times it's just, it like, that identity is just so critical, because even me thinking about that, like, just getting into the mindset of, like, I'm going to fucking do this and I know I can. And it's like when you get in that dog mindset with it, whether it be with soccer, whether it be with golf, and you just know it's like that shit's going to go down and you're going to rip this no matter what happens. And I think a couple things, I know this is a long tangent, but I think it just has to be said. That identity is so critical, right? When it comes to pursuing different activities, especially when it comes to the becoming domain, when you're trying to progress, when you're trying to reach a certain standard, right? But if you start to take a more general approach, right? And you start to say, I'm the fucking man. And it's not more so about yourself. It's about kind of others at this point, right? Like, I can do this more than you, right? Like, you separate yourself completely and you try to be better than everyone else and you make everything competitive, right? In a large sense. I know this is a struggle of yours, right? It gets to a point because whenever someone says the top 1%, like, I I get what they're saying, and I totally understand, and there's a lot of truth in there.
Right.
But when someone makes a more general claim where they're like, in order to be the top 1% man, you got to develop these habits, X, Y, and Z. You know what I mean? It seems like they're just up in the sky, and they're just so much superior then. And when they're not, right? They're just like you. And that's just a man-made hierarchy that we've developed. And what you're going to find is if you actually pursue that hierarchy and you're not actually pursuing what you love and what you care about and what you are intuitively gravitate towards and kind of have developed over this whatever period of time while also developing preferable habits, you'll find that you're just going to constantly be chasing for a sense of significance, for a sense of status, for a sense of that area. And I feel this every single day. I feel a sense, especially with, CJ Media has been doing really well, other areas are getting a lot of attention, and you start to think you're the shit when you're not.
You're not.
No one is. And I love how I'm not special. I love that.
Yeah.
I'm just like everyone else. I'm a neutral being here and now. I'm not even a human being. It's just a concept at the end of the day. You are so insignificant. And listen, like you are. Like you're insignificant. You don't mean anything. But you mean everything at the same time too.
Crazy. It's crazy.
It's this paradox that we live in, right? Because if you're in that becoming domain and you're just like, I'm the fucking man. I'm going to rip this fucking weight. This shit's going down, right? You get the chalk, you smack your hands, and you're like, I'm fucking ready. You got pop smoke in your ear. You're like, oh, this is it. And then you fucking, like, you know what I mean? Like, dude, I'm getting hyped up even saying it. You know what I mean? But it's also balancing that with the being domain. To recognize that, yes, since I am worthless, since I am so insignificant, and I have no value over my life, but the value is generated from me, that you can create the reality that you want. And so if you're placed into a group that is the advanced level class, develop that mindset, develop that kind of environment, because it's only going to help you become further. But don't generalize that over everyone.
100%. Like the 33% of kids, including myself, that were in that class, were definitely better at math than the other kids. I remember one example. There was this girl that her mom really wanted her to be in the advanced class, so they pushed her up. She didn't know what the fuck was going on. Her IQ wasn't there. Her genetics did not allow her to be in that room with us. It was so blatantly obvious. It was staring us all in the face. And after a week, she was back to the same class because it was very obvious she couldn't hang. And that's okay. But the point is that her identity was being reinforced that she's stupid, she can't do this, when in reality, she was just in the wrong environment. Life isn't just algebra. And that's the beauty of it. Is there's going to be 1,000 rooms where she's top dog and I step in there and they tell me to fuck off. And that's the beauty of life, is that you just got to find your fucking room. Like Alex, I knew this from the day that it was, once we started, I don't know when it was, but I remember we were talking about money and stocks and investing, and it was in high school. And I was like, shit, like there's gonna be so many rooms where Alex is fucking top dog, where people can't fucking even come remotely close to hanging, when the classroom was never his room. It just wasn't. The classroom was just not his room. He was never top 33%. But it's one fucking environment. That's it.
That all of society has.
Who gives a fuck if he knows how to do trigonometry when he's building $1 billion business? Who cares? And if you're gonna be the best accountant, then great. But the truth is when you define success in one facet answer, then you're fucking yourself and fucking everybody else over, because you think you're the best or you think you're the worst. When in reality is you're just in the room where you thrive or you don't. And that's it. And you just got to find your room. And this is why I don't like the education system, is because it's not built in the creative manner. It's built in you do this and this and this and this. And there's 3, 4, maybe 5 or 6 areas that you get judged in, and that's it. Alex isn't stupid because he sucks at Spanish. No. Alex is a genius in his own areas. You're just not allowing him to find the areas that he's good at.
100%.
But he wakes up, he goes to school, and then he does his homework, and then he goes to bed and he repeats. And you're letting him play a game that he sucks at. His biology, his genetics, his DNA doesn't allow him to be good at this game. Fuck that game. Why does he have to keep playing this game? Like, no, this is just a game that everyone plays, so you got to play it too. Fuck it. Rip it up. You don't need to go to college. You don't need to go to trade school. You don't need to do anything specifically that anybody else wants you to do.
Rip it up,
Find the game where you fucking kick ass. It's like life is rigged in so many different ways where there's an infinite amount of games that you can choose to play.
Especially
infinite.
nowadays.
Fucking infinite. The perfect example is sports. There's a video. It's got to be of Mbappe, but they're playing basketball, and he's like fucking yeeting it at the backboard, and you're like, that's the most unathletic. Like, if you didn't know who he was, you'd be like, that's not a pro athlete, and it's one of the best athletes in the fucking world. The point is Mbappe doesn't like. It would be stupid to think that we would force Mbappe to only play basketball. But then we go in the classroom and assume that everyone has to be good at math or history or English because we're just used to it. We're not used to being forced to play basketball. So it looks ludicrous to be like, no, Mbappe, you can't play soccer, you have to play basketball. When in reality, all of life is that way. All of it.
Yeah, everyone could be smart.
You pick, if there's infinite games we can pick, why wouldn't you just pick the game you're the best at naturally and then get amazingly good at that one game? Do it. You have the choice to rig life in a way to where you can be the fucking best. Mbappe's not playing basketball for a fucking reason. There's no reason why you have to label yourself as stupid because you're not good at math or English or whatever other fucking class or Spanish. Who cares? Fuck those games. Like, who cares? Put yourself in a game where you're going to be the best at it naturally and then go kick everyone's ass.
Yeah. You got to enjoy it though, right?
Right. Well, and a big part of enjoying it is, you're going to pick something out and be like, I'm fucking good at this.
Yeah.
I'm really fucking
I think
good.
Alex Ramosi says you don't enjoy something until you get really good at it.
Right. But you're not starting from square zero at every game. In terms of powerlifting, you're going to start way higher than me. But in terms of maybe running 5 miles, I'm going to start way higher than you. You could run your ass off, and I could run for a week and kick your ass. And I could lift for 5 years, and you could get back into powerlifting when you're 30 and kick my ass. And there's just certain things that are going to be like that. Yeah. But there's a reason why I'm not going to go to national powerlifting tournaments because A, I'll never get in, but B, it's a hope. I'm a hopeless romantic. That's it.
But you could definitely get stronger.
But of course.
I think you could be, actually.
And Mbappe can
I think you're really strong.
And Mbappe can get...
I think you actually are. You're just a little injured.
I think... What?
I think you're just injured. That's all. Like, I think if you were to fix your injuries, I think you would actually be fucking insane if you hopped on like a power. Because, dude, I was the same way.
Okay.
Like, I plateaued on my strength for... like a solid 3 years.
I would be... I'm going to Steve tomorrow, so we'll see.
And then Mikey... I got the right structure, got the right programming, and he added like 200 pounds on my total within less than a year, dude. Like, I've been working with the dude for like 10 months. And the fact that you told me you were benching like 200 at like 130, bro, that's like, I'm like 180 right now, and my bench is like probably like 260, and that's 80 pounds stronger than my actual body weight, right?
Yeah.
80 more pounds. And then you were like, 140? That's like 60 more pounds, and you knew what you were doing, but you weren't on like an actual program.
Right.
I'm telling you, dude, if you hopped on a program, I think you would be disgusting. I don't know.
Maybe.
Anyways,
hopefully.
continue. I just wanted to say that.
I know. Thank you. The fact of the matter is, it's just like, again, I just want people to understand that just because you suck at school or just because you suck at basketball doesn't mean you have to stay with those things. Life has an infinite number of games you can choose to play.
Absolutely.
Whether it's sports or school or a career path or building a business, whatever it may be, pick the one you're the best at and go fucking all in. That's the amazing thing about life. Don't let the identity school gave you that you're stupid allow that to dictate your life. Don't allow that to dictate your life. Don't. Just don't. Because if you allow it to dictate your life, you're not going to open up the doors and open up your eyes to see the doors that are going to be flashing wide open saying, this is what you're meant to do. Until you decide, fuck school, let me pick up a fucking golf club. And then all of a sudden, you're fucking better than John Rahm.
Yeah.
But you will never know until you decide to no longer allow school's dictation of who you are to dictate what you're going to be on the golf course, or what you're going to be when you build a business, or what you're going to be when you start, doing architecture or painting or doing stand-up comedy.
Facts.
There's so many. There's an infinite amount of games.
Let's find it.
And if you allow school or sports or one fucking thing to dictate how you feel about yourself, You're not going to open up your eyes to all the areas of life when there's a fucking guaranteed fact that you're going to be amazing at one of them. And you will never find that one thing if you allow fucking your math teacher to tell you that you're a failure because you can't fucking do trigonometry. Fuck your math teacher. Pick up a basketball. Go try and build a business. There's going to be something you're going to be amazing at, but you're never going to allow yourself to open your eyes to that fact until you decide to tell your math teacher to go fuck herself.
It's so true because you won't even believe it. Like, you won't even know. And that is so amazing. And so, when I say amazing, it's like that's so interesting.
Yeah.
Neither good nor bad. Like, it's just interesting.
Yeah.
Because especially nowadays, dude.
Yeah.
Like, I don't even know. Sorry.
Come on.
Don't you point your spider at me. So many people, I think, are in that trap right now, too. Because, for instance,
It's so bad.
if someone's like really good at school, right? If someone sees your GPA, they're like, "Oh my God, dude, you're so smart." And
That's why it's so hard to tear it up.
When people say that to you,
Yeah.
where do you think your self-worth's going to go?
Right.
And do you think you're going to keep doing that?
Of course.
Yeah. Like, and I think a lot of people will not only believe based on what they've been told, and they haven't developed their own beliefs.
Right.
They haven't actually thought for themselves and understand, like what you were touching on.
Right.
That they'll believe this is the definition of what smart is. And you have to do X, Y, and Z to fit that one particular kind of mold. And so much potential is left on the table. And based on what they've been told, based on what their parents say, based on what society says, and what they don't believe, right? But what they believe reality is, they're never going to find that.
Right.
And I know it's happened to me. I know it's happened to you in the past.
Yeah.
But it's just so important to keep in mind, because when you start to venture into these different areas, when you start to say, fuck school, fuck the mindset it's given me, fuck the conditioning that I have, I'm going to change this shit no matter what. I'm going to find something that I'm passionate about. I'm going to find something that I love, and I'm going to be really fucking good at it.
Right.
And it's not to say I'm going to be better than anybody else. It's not to say that I'm going to, like, make this just mine. You know, no one else can join me. Even though you're going to feel inklings of that, and you're going to feel jealousy, you're going to feel all these different types of things.
Right.
But if you can really develop that kind of idea in your head and understand that no matter if you're shit at school, if society's saying you're dumb, if your friends are saying you're stupid, you are actually smart.
Yeah.
You just have to find it.
Right.
Just because it doesn't fit the general mold of what everyone says it is.
Right.
You can add so much value to your life and so much meaning, even though you are worthless, that it'll just bring so much to you. Right. And I think just kind of chucking that whole idea of what your definition of smart is, what your definition of intelligence is out the window, especially within our day and age, is so important. And I think it's huge when it comes to identity. It's huge when it comes to what you feel and what you believe you can do. And it simply comes back to a matter of willing to do it or not.
100%. And like the thing I think about is, like, when take your example with, the 4.0, or my example with the 4.0. Once I decided to throw it out, once I decided that I was no longer going to spend my time trying to get a 4.0 because all I cared about was my mom's opinion and my mom's affirmation of seeing that I'm on the dean's list and getting that mail, like, that was the only reason I was doing it. I didn't care about anything else. All I cared about was my mom saying that mostly, and then to be able to tell people, or when people were to ask me what my GPA is, to flex. It was a significance thing. It was an ego thing. Yeah. It had nothing to do with anything real. Yeah. And if I had gone to a school that actually challenged me where I couldn't cheat, I would never have a 4.0. Yeah. There's no level of discipline that I can get to have a 4.0 in an actual study classroom. You know why? Because I'm not a genius. The only people that should have 4.0s are the 1%, the 1%, the 1%. And until you decide to rip at the fucking game, whether it's school, sports, or whatever, you're going to be stuck in the game. Yeah. And you're never going to find the doors that are actually open to you.
Yeah. 100%.
Well, that's right.
Loser, you don't care. camera.
I don't have a camera. What's up? All right, homies. Love yourself because I love you and stay handsome.